Hello, John.
Hello, Oliver.
So today we're going to talk about education and what is education for?
That's right. Because we all, thanks for the goodness, went to school here. A national school infant school first, up to first class or thereabouts, and then the top school, as they used to call it, and where we did up to sixth class at the age of about 12. And in the national school, we learned about in my time, and I presume now, I would hope, we learned our 3 R's: arithmetic, English, and other basic subjects that would enable you to sort of get by if you had to leave school after your sixth class because of the economic situation or because of your poor family needing you to work. And many of one did start working at that and maybe got an apprenticeship in a trade, in a garage or in the electrical business, and hence we get all our tradesmen. Not all ones want a second level education, but in the primary education sector, we were often taught, in my time, there was the religion, which was in our place the Catholic religion, and I presume in the Church of Ireland schools they're Protestant religion or whatever it stood for. And they had Sunday school, but we had this, and we had the catechism, and we had to understand that it was the penny catechism. And then when we made our first Holy Communion, which we did around the 7 or 8 mark, we had to answer questions. For example, who made the world? We didn't come out with this business of a big bang and that kind of stuff. God made the world, and this type of thing. So this is what we were taught in my time, and I presume, I hope it's still taught like that in the schools, so the people then have a foundation in their Christian or spiritual life. And other now nationalities that now are living in the country, I presume they're taught somewhere about their spiritual life. I think it couldn't very well be all these religions be taught in the primary sector before when you leave at about age 12 or 14, whatever it is. Now, that's the primary, so you hope that there's a foundation there that will stand you in good stead throughout your life, and that you have attended school, and that you haven't been in a family where there was where you didn't attend school regularly, and so hence you become illiterate. So there's great benefits to being in school. You're there on your own. You're out of the bosom of the family, and you have to stand on your own 2 feet and stand up for yourself. And many a black eye and this, that and the other that you might acquire during your time in the national school, because you've often had bullies in those places. And but we had to deal with them, and then you had teachers that could be a bit on the hard side. But nonetheless, we come out of that business with some ideas of what we were taught. And then some of us were fortunate enough at the time to have a secondary school education, and where we learned more things about life and about the business of the English and Shakespeare and what he was up to with regard to his poems, and Wordsworth, and talking about 10,000 daffodils at a glance. And I just thought he must have great eyesight. Perhaps he had binoculars, because it's very hard to see 10,000 of them dancing. But remember, he mentioned that. And it's very hard to come across a field with 10,000 daffodils, but he come across that. And then another one he said about church towers and domes, church towers and domes up to the sky, something about London and pleasant sight that he thought that it was. And another one with his niece in Cali Beach, and he said to her, look, Jessica, I think her name was Jessica, look how the floor of heaven is thick with patterns of white gold. There's not an angel, the patterns of white gold, the angels singing, something like that, patterns of white gold. That was a nice poem. So this is what they were taught in secondary school in English. And then I, in my time, did Latin and French, and of course Irish and maths and all these. And trigonometry, which was in part of maths. And funny enough, the trigonometry struck me as tricky. Quite frankly, it wasn't up my street. If there's one thing I detested, was anything to do with that type of stuff. So I wasn't going to be a scientist or a maths genius, quite the reverse. Fond of English, fond of Latin, fond of French, and honours in them. So with the result, this is how I benefited myself in the secondary school. Others benefited as well, and some of them even in my time got scholarships, so they were able to go to university without them costing them the fees and all the rest of it. They got scholarships. I know people that got scholarships because it was costly affair in them times. Now people that haven't got the means are often it doesn't cost them. But some families still have to pay. So in any event, that's university. So secondary school and doing your intermediate cert and your leaving cert was a very good foundation for going into the workplace. And also in those schools, there was a certain amount of religious education. If you're a Catholic, a certain amount of that. And the people that you were with, generally speaking, led good lives. You know, you didn't have this kind of license that you have nowadays. It was more traditional. And so that, to me, is the best education for the individual to learn the values of life and opportunities, and if you like, the lack of going down wrong road, the idea that there was a straight, a good road to follow, and then there was another road that was not so good, and it often depended what they used to say was, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are, that type of thing. So you were advised not to be mixing with people that might lead you astray. Mm-hmm. These are the advice that we got in secondary school, and how to be careful, but you still had to show your wild oats, if you like to call it that, and that was a phrase used, and it covers a multitude and might be considered that good. We grew up fast enough after our school. School was a protective environment in some respects. So that was my experience, but now other people have experience of being in universities. There's 1,000 universities and third level institutions like that have university status as well, institutes of higher learning, and they can give degrees and all the rest of it and recognised as such, and sort of have their little cap on them and whatever it is that their little parchment, and they're often standing up in a photograph on the wall, looking very important, that holding on to this piece of paper. And so this is the university education, and one hopes that it benefits those that are able to acquire it and stick with it, because I understand there's a lot of ones drop out. That doesn't seem right, that they haven't a chance for a university education. And of course, if you do what is required, you will be successful. But if you do something opposite, in other words, become involved in too much social activity of where alcohol is sometimes abused and so on and so forth, that's not going to help you to gain from the university education that you might otherwise gain, whereby you get a qualification, and the life that you've led has been conducive to acquiring a good job, because you respected yourself as you were going through university. Now one hears that there's a certain different attitude by way of a cancel culture, that type of thing. We had an example of it here. We had a very nice students president, and then we did a video about Katie Ashcock, a lovely, talented person, and liable to do very good for the students, but because she had a pro-life approach, she was hounded by those that don't support that view, and so she was ousted. But she was honoured subsequently by international bodies for her courage. I understand she's married now, so it's a slightly different ball game now than in my time. But one hopes that there are students, and I'm sure there are, because there's good and bad, isn't there, in life? So I presume many of them do well, and I hope that's the case. So that's what I say. Education can be for good or ill. It depends on what the curriculum is.
Curriculum.
Yeah, you said it nice and fast there. It's a word that doesn't slip off.
I'm
my
on the
tongue.
ball, John Malone. I'm on the ball.
It doesn't slip off my tongue, but you see where I'm coming from. It has to uplift people, spiritually, mentally and physically. If that's the hallmark of the education, then it will do the person good, in case that they mightn't be getting that nourishment in the home.
The thing about education as well is, okay, I'm glad we've moved from the model where education was regarded as only for the young. There was a time where when people done the Leaving Cert and they left school or they got a degree, and then if they got past the age of 25, they would think, oh, sure, it's too late to get an education now. The good thing about it is you can have an education at any time of your life. You can go for study a degree at 70 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's always useful to you. That's
it is,
it'll always
and
stand
it's
to you.
useful for the benefit, for to give you another insight. But you know something, what was encouraged, at least in my time, was reading, and I still have that habit. And I have books, or I buy books. I look in the library as well at times, but now with this business being closed there, but they're open. And but anyways, it was a good thing to read, and that was encouraged, and so I read quite a bit when I was young. I think I read, when I was 14, nearly all the Charles Dickens books, which are fairly long tomes, but I found them very good, great stories. So then it means that there was a good foundation of that habit of reading, and I still have it, and I'm still learning. I think you learn until you blink a while, meet your maker.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's my experience of education, and I hope it still continues for many people, so as they can get benefits from it.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you very much, Oliver.